We are starting off the show with a guest. I'm sure you are familiar with him. He is back and he has an announcement that I think you all want to hear. You're going to want to hear. So our special guest today is Butch Ware. He is the former vice presidential Green Party candidate. He was Jill Stein's running mate there for presidential election 2024. Butch Ware is back with some news. Let's go ahead and bring him in. What's going on, Butch?
How you doing, Sabby? It's good to be back.
Thanks so much for coming back on. A lot of people have been asking about you. I don't know if you know this, Butch, but people have been contacting me via email, DM, and they're like, what's going on with Butch? We want to know. Because like Jill came on, she's gone into another different podcast, and she's working on this event with Sean Swant and Chris Hedges. Yep. That's coming up soon. But now people get to hear from you. Before you make your announcement, I think the first question, one thing that people really want to know, what was some of the feedback that you heard from this past presidential election from the people that we usually don't get to hear from? Like, what was some of the feedback that you heard from voters in Michigan and some of these swing states, et cetera, that decided to support you and Jill over the two-party system?
I mean, I think that what stood out to me, just given my background, given the fact that I've been, a scholar and a teacher and an organizer in the Muslim community for a couple of decades before I got pulled into politics, was the overwhelming response of support from the Muslim community first and foremost. That meant a lot to me. You know what I'm saying? The exit polling indicated that we won the Muslim community outright. 53% of Muslim Americans voted for the Steinware ticket. We buried Kamala and Trump in our demographic. And I think people have slept on that just off the top, because we haven't seen a major departure from the Democratic Party from an ethnic or religious demographic like that in a long time. I mean, this was a major shift, like akin to the way that Black folks shifted from Republicans to Democrats during the FDR tenure. That's the kind of shift that was. The other part was just this incredible outpouring of support from Black and Latin communities, the revolutionary community more broadly. I heard things, to be honest, that like had me humbled. Like I heard from Fred Hampton Jr. that like he reached out to me unprompted and said he was proud of what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? I had people, in the Black Muslim community tell me, keep swinging, you're coming like Malcolm was coming. So when I hear stuff like that, that inspired me to kind of keep going, despite the fact that I'm not going to lie, I did not want to talk to anybody the day after the election. I am a sore loser. I did not, I really thought that we could have performed better than we did. But that was also part of the reason why, I sat with my family, I sat with my folks, studied the issues, and, decided to get back into the game, because I think that the moment is right for a genuine third-party populist progressive alternative, that brings in that Black radical tradition, that galvanizes the Muslim community, because we know that this, corporate duopoly ain't about the people and it's not going to serve the people. So we're going to have to build something that will.
That's right. 100%. And another thing I want to add, of course, corporate media ignored this, but you're correct. You and Jill did win the Muslim vote, and they didn't want to focus on that. They're tending to focus on, oh, well, they didn't perform well, et cetera, not discussing all the obstacles that were in front of you. And also the fact that Jill Stein did have a town hall with CNN in 2016. They did not give her a town hall this time around. So that cannot be ignored. I think people do need to mention that. But I think what's really interesting to me is that right now, even now, after Trump's win, the Democratic Party does not have a favorable rating. I just saw the numbers earlier today where more than 50% of, Democrat voters are not happy with the Democratic Party. And that's while Trump is in office. Yep. So something, has to change. I noticed Marianne Williamson threw her hat in the ring for the DNC chair, which I didn't think that was a good idea, because I know they're going to ignore her, which I was correct about that. Yeah. But it's become obvious, I think, to a lot of people that the Democratic Party cannot be reformed.
At all. And so, you know, I said that I was disappointed with the outcome. I do think that there was massive voter suppression of the Green Party, you know, keeping us off the ballot in Illinois and New York State, you know, obviously affected the overall outcome. But just, you know, zooming out, they were absolutely terrified of us. And that's the reason for that media blackout. That's the reason for those attack ads that they ran right before, you know, the election. And I made only 2 predictions. I didn't predict that we would get to that 5%. I was hoping for it. I was pulling for it, but I made 2 predictions on the campaign. I saw the first of them come true, and then you'll assess the second with me. All right. So the first of them was, I said on August, I think 23rd, I'd been on the campaign for a week. I said the Dems have no path to victory in November. And I said that because I had been in the Muslim community, and then as soon as I saw the polling, I knew that they had lost the Muslim community, had lost the swing states, and therefore were not going to be competitive. So I've seen that prediction come true. The second prediction was, I said that the Democrats are going the way of the Whigs. They are going the way of the Whig Party. They are never going to get up from what they have done to themselves in this last electoral cycle and in the 30 years that preceded that. The corporate sell-off of this party from Clinton now through Kamala has put the final nails in the coffin of this party. And if you look and zoom out objectively, you see a party that is in utter shambles, utter shambles, and has no capacity to reassemble the base that has departed it. And so if we show strength and, you know, present a true opposition alternative rather than a controlled opposition alternative, you are going to watch people, you know, move to a new party. And that's what I'm trying to facilitate.
That's right. And you have an announcement that you want to make to everyone today, because you are not out of this. So I want to go ahead and give you the floor.
I mean, so it is official. You know, I launched the official ButchWareForGov.com website. That's ButchWareForGov with the number 4 in the middle of it, because I'm running for governor in the state of California. And what I'm saying to the people is that you do not have to be a California resident to be invested in the victory of this campaign. California, if all of the states were independent nations, California will be the 5th largest economy in the world. Okay. What happens in the state of California sends ripple effects everywhere. So part of choosing to take this fight, and you know, they said it. They said, "Where's the Green Party between presidential elections? How come we only hear from y'all every 4 years?" Well, what y'all gonna say today? That's the question, because the idea is that we are going to run to win in the state of California, yes, but also to galvanize all of those forces that are disaffected with this corrupt corporate duopoly that comes in blue or red flavors. And we are going to build a movement, because you do not have to be a resident of the state of California to donate or to volunteer to help build this strength. And the more strength we show in this 2026 electoral cycle, then the more damage we are capable of inflicting in 28 and in 32. So instead of talking about it, be about it. Put your money where your mouth is and help us win in the state of California.
100%. And that website is up. I want to go ahead and bring that up on the screen here. Butch Ware for Gov of California. We, the people, demand safety, autonomy, belonging, community, life, etc. One of the things that I like about this website is that, of course, you also have mutual aid and direct action. This is a big point for those of us over at Revolutionary Blackout Network. We all do mutual aid and, of course, direct action. You're probably one of the first or one of the few political candidates that has come onto this show that has this as a part of their platform. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Why do you feel that this was necessary to have as a part of your campaign?
I think that it's absolutely critical. So the mutual aid and direct action component. So just for legal purposes, I want to make it clear that that's a 501c4 organization that's distinct from the campaign for legal purposes. But the reason why it's there is that we need to understand that the movement building work is bigger than any political party, and it is bigger than electoral politics. Kwame Ture said that that is the laziest, most bourgeois thing, to think that you can show up every 4 years and feel like you did your duty, right? And what we are seeing, especially accelerated under Trump, but to be perfectly honest, the neoliberal Democratic Party accelerated this process as well. We have seen a complete divestment from all of the basic responsibilities that a government is supposed to take care of. We do not have anybody but ourselves. So that means that we have to rely on one another for that mutual aid and coordinating direct action. And yes, the political campaign to win the gubernatorial race in the state of California is a crucial part of that, but this has to be a nationwide mutual aid and direct action movement that helps to build the kind of strength that we're going to need to be competitive in subsequent elections and to meet people's needs in the meantime. Last thing I'll say, because I am a professor, I periodically will get long-winded in responses to these questions, but in that last piece, the revolutionary learning community, because that the last part on the website was about the learning community that we also have. And I just had our second meeting of the Revolutionary Book Club yesterday. It's a free book club meeting. We're reading Revolutionary Suicide by Huey P. Newton for next month. By all means, join us. But what Huey talked about at the end of that was he said that everybody got obsessed with the Panthers and guns. And don't get me wrong, armed self-defense is an important part of the Black radical tradition. But he said that if you look at the Panther platform, the first 6 points are all survival programs.
Yes.
Right? Survival programs, without the ability to feed ourselves, without the ability to coordinate childcare, without the ability to coordinate police watches so that we can make sure that our communities are not being harmed, without the ability to coordinate keeping eyes on ICE and communicating with one another in a fashion that does not spread fear and terror and panic, but that rather gives our communities the reconnaissance that is necessary for us to adjust our movements so that we can get the safety that we need, that our political authorities are not providing, then whatever we do in the electoral sphere will be compromised by the brokenness of our communities. So we have to be building community at the same time as we are building political power.
And this is something I don't see the Democratic Party do. I've even seen Republicans organize for mutual aid, believe it or not. I've seen Republicans have, Republican activists have their own like soup kitchens and things like that. But this is something the Democratic Party chooses not to really focus on, is this community building piece, right? I see them come around when they want you to reelect them. But other than that, I don't see them. I don't hear from these people. And it's been a long going story. We've been talking about this over and over, like throughout the years, that they're nowhere to be found. And then they wonder why people continue to stop like showing up in numbers. The numbers have decreased over the years, every election cycle. I've been sounding an alarm about this, but now they're kind of stuck in this headway. And then you have Gavin Newsom, and Gavin Newsom is not favorable right now, despite the fact that he already had a recall a couple of years ago that he was able to beat. Do you think that Gavin Newsom is going to run for governor again?
So he can't. His term limit is finished, so he's out of the race. And I think that they've been grooming him and setting him up for a presidential run. That's been kind of the basic part of their approach. So that's one. Let me just go back for that part about how we don't see or hear from the from the Democrats. I actually made a social media post about this right before I got called into the campaign. And this was in August, where I said that Kamala Harris is to politics what Drake is to hip hop. Okay. And then I said, what did Kendrick say? Kendrick said, you come to Atlanta when you need a few dollars. You ain't a colleague, you a colonizer, right? Now that's what happens, right? They come to the community when it is time for them to fundraise or when it is time for them to get out the vote. Otherwise, you don't hear from them. And so that's also an important piece of why the mutual aid and direct action is part of this overall strategy, which is not just an electoral strategy, is that in order for communities to believe that this movement is capable of delivering the goods, then they need to see us show up. And that means like getting on the ground in Santa Ana and in Stockton and in Compton and showing up for the mutual aid work. So that is a crucial part of the overall strategy. And that's also part of the reason why, and just to be blunt about this, is that the support for this campaign, in order for us to be successful, is going to have to be nationwide support. We have to invest in building a model that will have its own impact in the state of California for sure, but that will provide a model for how we can build a successful independent third party movement, more broadly, that this is a laboratory and it's a good place to start. And not just because I live here and it's become my home state and I'm invested in the place and have deep relationships, especially in LA and in Oakland and in San Diego, to build upon, but also because whatever happens in California is going to send shockwaves and ripple effects throughout the country. So this is also a state that, oftentimes refers to itself as a blue state. I mean, you're never gonna hear me saying that, but it is the state in the union that has the most progressive politics. And so this is also a place where I think that we can press the edge of a progressive populist message and get a response. A lot of people don't know that there are as many registered independents in the state of California as there are registered Republicans. So there is a real opportunity for us to move in some different lanes than politicians conventionally move.
Correct. And you mentioned nationwide. This is an important point. Some people may not be aware of this, but even when you look at AOC's first congressional campaign, when she was running against Crowley, some people may not be aware that it wasn't just volunteers in New York that were helping AOC that campaign.
Yep.
That was a nationwide effort. There were people here in Massachusetts that were helping AOC get elected. And there were Green Party members who also were helping AOC on the ground. And this is why some of us gave a tremendous pushback towards her when she came after, of course, Jill Stein, your running mate. And we gave that pushback because the things that she said about the Green Party, knowing that it was better, that helped her get elected. That's where a lot of the grassroots came from. And she got in, and now she, turned her back around and wants to talk smack about other people, etc. But the whole point that you bring up about the grassroots and having that foundation, I think when we look at third parties right now in the United States, the Green Party is the one that seems to do really well with ballot access for presidential elections. I know there's been a lot of criticism about the Green Party, and I've had those discussions on my show with other Green Party members as well. But I think people do omit certain things. Like, for example, I've interviewed Green Party mayors on this show. So when people say that Green Party members don't hold any of these seats, that's simply not true. Now, do we have Green Party members in Congress? No, we do not. But there are Green Party mayors, there are Green Party, of course, city councilors, school board, etc. I do think the Green Party does need stronger congressional races. But again, of course, that also comes back to money.
100%. So before I touch on that part, I just want to go back for AOC Pelosi real quick, because it's really rich, hearing from, the holder for the land speed record of the fastest betrayal of the people, anything, to be perfectly honest. I mean, you just remember, we're working tirelessly for a ceasefire, So, and what does it get you when you bend over backwards and sell out and shill for the corporate establishment the way that she has? They still ran right past her for 100-year-old, white man. Jerry, was it Connolly, whatever it was, in the position of authority that she was seeking. So you bend over backwards and sell out, with record pace, and they still show you exactly no love and exactly no respect. Because I'm just going to be blunt about this: the Democratic Party for people of color is a plantation. And that's also what's driving that argument that you're stealing voters from the Democrat. They believe that they actually own the votes of people of color, and that if anybody comes and peels away those votes, they're taking away something that belongs to the Democrats. They have a proprietary ownership model of the votes of people of color, and we're not buying that. Now, with respect to the Green Party, Every single party has issues. I've spoken to the Green Party National Steering Committee, I'm on the coordinated campaign committee, spoken to Black Caucus, the Lavender Caucus members, and other groups inside the Green Party about building strength and capacity. And I'll just do the short version of this, but there's kind of 5 key things that need to happen. And this campaign has to be a part of this process of growing the party. The first is that we need better vertical integration inside the party. We didn't have good mechanisms for letting the little bit of media shine and fundraising capacity that the presidential ticket was getting. We didn't have good ability for that to matriculate down to Green Party state chapters and local chapters so that we could distribute that shine. Neither did we have the ability to really connect with a lot of those local chapters in ways that were productive of like, what are the people's needs on the ground? And in a sane organization, you should have that kind of layered conversation so that what you're doing at the local level and what you're doing at the national level is proceeding in an integrated fashion. And this is not me telling tales out of school. I said this directly to Green Party leadership. The second thing is that there needed to be a shift in the culture. And I said this, I'll just be blunt about this. I said that there's a lot of, aging, weed smoking white leftists in the party, and they don't necessarily have like a go-getter attitude about winning. I said people have been content to be on the field, but as soon as y'all called me into this electoral fight, then we are playing to win the game, not to stay on the field. And that electoral ballot access is crucial. It cannot be understated the way that the Green Party has been able to successfully fight to stay on the field. I'm not trying to diminish that accomplishment, but rather that accomplishment has led to a phase where we now have to translate that electoral access in national elections to electoral damage in national elections. And then you said this, and I'll stop here. I'll just do the 3 points, and then we can get to 4 and 5 if they come up organically later. Fundraising. You cannot expect these kinds of robust political organizations to be developed on an entirely volunteer basis. That's not the way that the incentive structure of human activity functions. People need material reward for their work just as a matter of survival. And that's why when I came onto the campaign, and we just got the latest figures, and is that before I joined the campaign, in the 10 months before I came aboard, the campaign had raised roughly $1.1 million over those 10 months, right? In that same time frame, the Democrats had raised $1 billion. Right. And you cannot win when you are being out fundraised 1,000 to 1. It doesn't matter the kind of candidate quality you may have. Now, even though this was literally my first election, those long relationships with fundraisers in the Muslim community, I'm often the keynote speaker at fundraisers for mosques around the country. So we were able to raise almost $2 million just in the 2.5 months that I was on the campaign. So we accelerated our fundraising capacity basically by a factor of 8. And I am counting on the Muslim community, not just to show up for us in electoral ways, but to show up for us as fundraisers in this gubernatorial and in future electoral cycles. We are going to need to actually raise money in order to be competitive, in order to build those field offices in all of those spots that we are going to need to show up for communities on a daily basis.
That's right. Well said. And another thing I want to mention as well, I've also said this as well. I do think the Green Party needs to do better about making not just inroads, but some type of, building community within the Black community, right? And I'm not talking about, when I say that, people are like, why would we go to Democrat voters? They're going to have their loyals to the Democratic Party. I'm talking about Black people who don't vote, or maybe used to vote, but they stopped because they're like, what's the point, right? Our communities are a disaster, and we keep electing, the same person, or we voted for this party, we voted for that party, and nothing changes. I do think there needs to be inroads made there, more so going to like, for example, if it were me and if I was a part of the Green Party, I already know that, particularly in Massachusetts, I would heavily focus on Roxbury, Mattapan, Dorchester, etc. A lot of the politicians are going to focus on Boston proper.
Yep.
It's things like that. It's going into those communities that a lot of times, like, the Democrats don't go into, like, including Kamala Harris, right? She didn't even go to Dearborn. I mean, come on. Like, so it's those communities that I think both parties have kind of said, we don't need to spend our time there because they don't come out and vote anyway. I want to remind everybody that the reason how AOC was able to beat against Crowley is she was able to get non-voters to come out and vote. So I don't think that you should look away, like, from those individuals. But I think, and I've said this recently, I did a breakdown about Gloria Steinem, and I think any type of movement that is trying to uplift marginalized people, those marginalized issues have to be front and center. And I think that's any movement, any political party, because otherwise it gets pushed to the bottom of the list, or it's just not on the paper at all.
100%. And I to be blunt about it, so my PhD is in African history, African American history. I teach on the Black radical tradition from Africa throughout the diaspora. I said to the team that brought me on, I said that that if you bring me into this ticket, that the Green Party is going to have to become the red, black, and green party. Right, that this absolutely is going to have to be a party that orients its messaging towards Black communities. And I saw somebody ask this in the chat earlier on, where are y'all on reparations? Reparations now, right? The Green Party, our good sister in Monterey, Audra Walton, got the California Green Party to put reparations directly in the California Green Party platform. We are about eliminating the wealth gap in this generation, not waiting. We're about transformation of the carceral state, the end of the police state, and the building of models of public safety that aren't rooted in the surveillance, control, incarceration, and commoditization of Black and brown bodies. But the issue that you pointed to is exactly the right issue. When I spoke with the NorCal Green Party representatives not too long ago in a visit up to Berkeley, I said that the Green Party has the best policies for the Black community, but it's not a Black people's party, right? we have the policies that provide the most dignity and the best policies for immigrant communities more broadly and for the Latin community specifically, but we're not a Latinx party. We have the best policies for workers and working class people, but we're not a workers' party. And that is precisely because those things they've been part of the platform and part of the intellectual articulation of the vision of the Green Party. But in order for us to win the trust of those constituencies, it means we have to do exactly that. We have to go into communities that have never had any incentive in believing that this electoral politics was for them. I'm gonna tell you the proudest moment, and people are gonna think that this is crazy, but it's true. Proudest moment for me on the campaign was when we got the endorsement of the Almighty Vice Lord Nation. When I right? When I moved, so I grew up in DC originally, moved to the south side of Minneapolis when I was young. I grew up in a Vice Lord neighborhood. And so getting, street organizations galvanized. Some of our key organizers in San Diego are people that have been working with street organizations for years, positive community, interventions. And these are exactly the folk, that get left out of the political conversation entirely, that, a movement like ours has the capacity to speak to and reach out to. I've mentioned before in other environments, my wife's, Mexican-American first generation, her mother was undocumented, for years. But I remember, I told her, I woke up, look at a text, and I said, babe, we got the Vice Lord's, endorsement. And she was like, that's dope. Right. Like, and for a Mexican American, that grew up in Stockton, being able to have a message that speaks to street organizations, that's something that hits, that's something that's real, that's something that's different from politics as usual. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not no politician. We are going to approach this like organizers, and we are going to approach this like public servants, and we are going to build something akin to what the Panthers were building before they put them down.
Well said, Butch. Butch, before you go, where can people follow you?
At Butch Ware on Instagram is the one that I actually manage. You can find me at Butch Ware on other platforms as well, but I don't post as frequently. I actually respond to DMs on IG, but go right now to butchwareforgov.com and kick in $11 towards this movement. And if you are flat broke, then donate your time if you can't donate your resources. We need volunteers. We need people that are willing to put their time and their money, where their mouth is, and actually help us build this. The American people know we need it. All of the polling says that literally 70% of independents and a majority, 50% of Democrats and Republicans say that we need an independent third party because the two parties are so bad at their job. Well, we've got an opportunity to build one, and with your support, we're going to do it.
Awesome. Butch, thank you so much. Keep in touch. Bye.
Take care.
All right, guys, that was Butch Ware. You heard his announcement here. He is running for governor of California. That's right. So we can add him to the docket. I think Nicole Shanahan also may be running for governor of California. And we're not sure about Kamala. She's trying to find her footing somewhere. But that's good news there for the Green Party. So if you live in California, you do have an alternative. So shout out to all of you guys. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.